I don't know how to do those transitions very well because normally I'm using OBS because I'm streaming by myself usually. But tonight we have two guests on StreamYard. It's a little bit awkward for me, but welcome. We're talking about Boy and the Heron tonight. And if you look behind me, no, this is not Princess Mononoke. uh, these are little creatures from the new movie. Let me bring on my guests first because we're going to start talking about some fun things. Welcome, Blaine's Escape Corner.
That's me.
Mr.
I
Guy.
made it. I'm the guy. Finally, I did it.
Yeah, the guy made it.
The guy.
And then welcome, Words of Paradise. What's up, Leon?
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and you guys are big Miyazaki fans.
Very big.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I started on Princess Mononoke when it came stateside. So that was, let's see, I would have been 8, I think, or so, when that came over. And it was like, holy crap, this is like animation, like Disney, but like really adult themes. Like we've got like real gore going on here. What is happening? And this was, I mean, I was already into anime. I'd already seen like Guyver, but like this really sort of implanted that like beauty that you can have paired with that. And so that's where I come from. That's my, to this day, favorite of the Miyazakis.
That's my favorite as well, man. But that's not my first experience. Was Spirited Away, and then and it must have been during its theatrical run because I remember following it into the Academy Awards.
And that one was huge. That like it's hard not to know about Spirited Away. So
yeah,
understandable.
Yeah. And then I was about, I might have been like 12 or 13, but before that I was probably just watching Dragon Ball Z. It sort of does it take someone to introduce you to Miyazaki, or did you have it? How did you know what I mean? Because it's not like a Western phenomenon. It wasn't until
until really Spirited Away. Like, I got off kind of different in that my dad was an anime fan in the 80s. And so my first was Kiki's Delivery Service. And so I watched Kiki's Delivery Service when I was really young, like VHS. But by that point, I'd already seen several anime, not knowing that anime was a term. I mean, he was such an old school otaku, he called it Japanimation. So that's what I grew up calling it. So, but I've been watching, man, and to this day, Kiki's is my favorite just because it's what introduced me to Ghibli. I didn't know I was too young. Didn't realize it was Miyazaki. Didn't realize it was Ghibli or Ghibli. I pronounce it both ways because I'm dumb. But to the point where once I started seeing some other films, I was like, oh, this looks similar to Kiki. Oh, it's because it's the same guy. And it was like, earth shattering at 7, 8 years old, however old I was when I made the connection.
Yeah, I think my cousin was big into anime, and he was just like, at the time, maybe that's how I discovered it. But it was basically like, when I was a kid, he was like, "Oh, you got to watch." Well, I was watching Adult Swim and Dragon Ball, but then he was like, "Yeah, you got to watch what was it? Vampire Hunter D, just random like Outlaw Star stuff I wasn't really quite aware of, And he was just like, "Here's some cool Miyazaki movies," and yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Kon. Yeah.
Because you can start out like with what's on TV. Like we had the Toonami block, of course, in my childhood. Before that, Hanna-Barbera actually had a lot of anime that they would put on, Speed Racer and stuff back then. So you could have just like gathered into it, but you wouldn't have known that you're watching anime. For me, my dad would go to the local video rental to the international animation section, and we would just be gambling as to whether or not the robot and the chick on the cover was going to be porn or not, and it would be appropriate for me to see as a child.
Literally
so
what me and my dad would do. Literally exactly that.
You're like, well, it's got a robot, but she's not wearing much. We'll see what happens.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, now when it comes to Miyazaki's, that was such a long time ago, right? So we're all big nerds of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the target demographic for this movie, to be honest. What do you guys think?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. If you're not a Miyazaki fan going into this is going to sound, I don't know if it will make you one. I think it's so intrinsically tied to this is for the fans. It's similar to Godzilla -1 in that regard. Like, this is for Miyazaki fans.
Yeah.
Well, and it is Miyazaki. Like when we get into like the spoiler territory of this review, like the entire show is about him leaving something to us and whether or not we're gonna take it. Like that's your entire metaphor for this whole show.
The metaphor, man. This movie's got meta 5s. Like,
well, to be fair though, I know people that have only seen it when like one other Miyazaki movie and they still enjoyed the movie. And I said this in my review. I was like, the animation is still unbelievable, and like the story is very sort of reminiscent of like what Alice in Wonderland or whatever that, you know, other people, it has references to other stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's a very classically like we're doing a fantastic adventure and we're gonna learn a lesson along the way. Like very, very simply put, that's sort of like your main story. But I think when you look at like the different aspects of the story, it's like, oh, this is Miyazaki. This is Miyazaki here. Like you said, Mononoke was your favorite as well. He was supposed to retire after Mononoke, and then he was gonna retire again, and came back for Wind Rises, and then he retired in 2017. Now he's out of retirement again to make this one. Like, the only thing that's going to stop this guy from making anime is if he finally dies. Like, that's it.
Yeah, dude's come out of retirement more times than Michael Jordan. Like,
he's going to pull a Kentaro Miura and just make everybody sad. Because that's the only way he's stopping.
It's the only way.
Speaking of references in this film, like, this film in and of itself is a reference, because the book, The Boy and the Heron, is a real book, but this is not an adaptation of that book. The book itself is an item in the film, which is based on the real book, The Book and the Heron. So it's I love that. It's not something you see often, but you do occasionally have films or video games or books or whatever that do this, that are they're titled after something, but they're not an adaptation of something. It uses that thing as a plot device or a central theme. So that's what The Boy and the Heron does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm not big into reading, but I watched a review on the book because I was like, I don't want to read this book, but someone will tell me what it means. And it was like, oh, I get how he used the themes, but I don't think anything in this book matches.
No.
Which is good. It's a great, fun way to do something where you're not saying like, oh, you've got a bunch of people that grew up loving The Boy and the Heron book that are like, oh, we'll go see the movie, see how he adapted it. No, I don't want to. There's no one there waiting for that. I mean, there might be. There's a lot of people on the planet.
I'm pulling up here let me just do this quick. Hold on a second. I'm pulling up the trailer so we can go through and break down some of the stuff. I saw this in IMAX. Did anybody get a chance to do that?
No, we didn't have the IMAX showing here.
Yeah, so I had the option to see it in IMAX, but I won't lie, I'm on a very strict diet, and I saw this movie on cheat day, and there's an Alamo Draft House in my city, so I'm like, I want to get that nice, juicy, spicy burger while I watch this. So I passed up IMAX in favor of food.
Acceptable. Crazy. How about, did everybody else watch Godzilla -1 the week before you saw this movie?
That I did see in IMAX, and I saw it, yeah.
I saw the Godzilla, I want to say after this? I can't remember.
Oh, funny.
I can't remember.
That would be an interesting way to do it, too, because I went from, like, Godzilla air raid sirens to Miyazaki air raid sirens.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, is this just my film now? Is this all I watch?
Yeah, it's just Japan. Hey, here's some war stuff.
Remember this time you guys were mean to us?
Yeah. The Japanese. This is interesting because I have my thing here. I'll share it. I'm not going to share the audio, but the Japanese are doing really well. Why is this playing? Oh, okay. I forgot to pause it.
Magic.
Japan. Well, I don't know. It's not perfect this year because apparently the Yu Yu Hakusho anime is garbage. But I mean, what do you get? Did you hear anything about that?
Oh yeah, I watched the Yu Yu Hakusho live action, or I'm watching it. It's classic Japan live action. Like anyone who's watched like the old Death Note Japanese live action version, it's that, but with Yu Yu Hakusho, where they change stuff. Sometimes the costumes are goofy, but everyone's having a great time, and you're like, oh, they're having fun. Like, let's let them have fun, all right?
So I thought it looked so bad it's good. Like, you know, and also the choreography in the scenes that I've seen, like, while there's some story changes I've heard, the choreography and camera work and whatnot does seem really well done in it, like, to give some credit to it.
Right. Kuwabara's perfect.
Oh, thank God, because he's the best character.
Well, so it's from what I see, it looks like expensive cosplay with like 90% of the show cut out of it, but has really fun action scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like everyone is like a dead to rights cosplayer, and they're like, "This is my thing. I'm going to do this." And like, I'm serious. When I said that Kuwabara just carries, like he just carries. I don't care about any of the rest of the show.
Anime though.
He does.
Fair, like, so they've got that right.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. But yeah, so Japan's doing well this year. I mean, you know, like that is an anime Japanese production, Yu Hakusho. It's not a Netflix production. They just distribute it. So, but Japan's kind of doing these big releases in the US that has you know, Ghibli's made more money with this movie than they ever have. Is that Ghibli or Miyazaki? Like overall.
It
like
has to be both.
I think it's record breaking for Ghibli.
I can't think of them. Like, I can't think of Miyazaki making something bigger, or I can't think of Ghibli making something bigger. Like, this is either way. That's a record.
So record-breaking box office.
It had to be a record-breaking box office though, because this was also their most expensive film that they've ever done.
Yes, it's
right because it was supposed to come out like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I'm trying to find the box. It's made over 100 million globally. That was 5 days ago. But yeah, it's expensive. The budget, do you guys know? 90 million, apparently.
That is incredible for an animated project. Like, especially coming out of Japan, where they have historically much lower budgets than we see here in the West.
Yeah. I see the budget on, I mean, I don't know. I don't quite understand budgets in Hollywood. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, but I see the effort and work on screen. This is a beautiful movie. And on my review, did you guys do reviews of this movie? I think Words Paradise, you said you decided not to.
I started scripting it. I trashed 4 scripts for a review for this, and just nothing I tried doing captured the magic that was this film. I felt every attempt at a review undersold it, and I did not want to just give a sterile like for certain movies you can give a very sterile by the book. This is my objective thoughts. There's nothing objective about this movie aside from the animation quality. Everything else is pure for lack of a better word, magic, and I couldn't do it justice, so I passed on a review.
Yeah, I just said go watch it while I was streaming one night.
Cass says I want to see Godzilla, but you want to go alone? Hey,
go alone.
I went alone.
Go alone, do it.
I think that is a underrated pastime, going alone to the movies. It's very satisfying to me. I love doing it because then you get to reflect by yourself. You don't have to like, if somebody didn't like the movie you went with, you don't have to like coddle to their, you know what I mean? I like going alone. I don't know what's wrong with that.
I like going to movies alone, but I also like going with people that have little to no interest in the film. But I know. So I took my grandmother to see Godzilla -1, for example. And it's not like my grandma's a big Godzilla fan, but it was great to be able to look over and see her reactions and see her, you know, like also experience the film vicariously through her, because I knew I was going to love it. I'm a Godzilla fan. But here's this 73-year-old woman that, you know, probably has seen a Godzilla or two in her time. But other than that, you know, she was. It was adorable. She was talking out loud in the movie. I'm like, oh, you need to be quiet. But like, it had her so excited. So I like going to see movies with people that when they don't have expectations for the film.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so my expectations for this movie were lowered because number one, he's old as fuck, and I don't know what that does to a person. I know he's been old for a long time, but like.
And he's a curmudgeon, and he's been a curmudgeon for like all of our lifetimes. If you watch any interview in the last 20 years of Miyazaki, he sounds so angry at the world.
He's like the inverse of Anno. Like where Anno keeps getting like happier and happier, Miyazaki's just been like, I hate you all. Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to be a little skeptical, especially in his later career. Now, people were honestly, Kurosawa is one of my favorite directors of all time, and in his 80s, he was making masterpieces still. So he was 80. I can't remember how old he was when he made Ran, a King Lear adaptation, but it's his best movie probably. So like this to me, I always had this like, oh, maybe what if this is awesome? But then the trailers didn't give much away, and I was like, well, what kind of movie is this? And then the first, I don't know, third of the movie is very much like, would you say it's like The Wind Rises kind of? Or maybe sort of the early parts of Totoro, where it's like just very like oriented around this little village, and like the main characters are not doing anything fantastical like immediately.
Well, the opening scene I thought was going to be, I was like, wait, is this movie going to be like Grave of the Fireflies? I wasn't expecting something to be this, and then it slips into, like Wind Rises or Totoro, which to me, I think the Wind Rises is incredibly underrated. So it's my second favorite Ghibli film. So the fact that the first, like you said, third of this film is that style, I love that very slice of life, get very acquainted with a simple world style.
Yeah. And this
so I went in totally blind. So I didn't see any trailers. All I saw was the poster on the announcement, like the watercolor one. And when it starts and you get that big bombastic opening and then it drops down for the next little bit, I'm just waiting the whole time. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. Is that what I'm waiting for? Oh, is that what I'm waiting for? Because like I'm just waiting for the Ghibli, the Miyazaki, like, let's go wild now. Because I know it's just going to be something comes out of a crack in the wall and then suddenly the world explodes. Like I'm waiting for it. So that put me in that sense of suspense for so long that it started to die out, and then bam, it hits you like when the when the big sort of weird stuff starts happening. I actually, it was
almost
perfect.
Goes on too long. You say it starts to die out. That's a perfect it all the slow stuff. While I love slow builds, I also knew that there was going to be fantastical elements to it. And right around the time I was like, was I misled? I was almost petering off on this is getting boring, and then like it hits. They timed it brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really thought the beginning, I can see people. You say you were sort of getting bored with it. Maybe is that what you said?
Bored is the wrong word. I meant it's bored. I was starting.
There's a sense of tension that builds in a Miyazaki when everything is normal and fine. And so as things are just normal and fine, and we're enjoying life in the village, you're waiting, that tension's building, and then I'm like, okay, maybe there's not a twist. Maybe this is the movie. And so I released that tension, and then it, bam, hit me with that big surprise.
Yeah, and I knew the runtime going in, and I was like, well, this movie is going to take a little bit of time. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think. Is that right?
I did not know the runtime going in. I assumed this was going to be hour and a half, just
right.
And so when we're, because it doesn't kick into gear till pretty much the 1 hour mark. And so about that 50-ish minute mark, I'm sitting here thinking the movie's got only have like 40-ish minutes left. Why when I realized the movie was as long as it was after it was finished, I was like, all right, they knew what they were doing with the pacing on this. That was
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the setup of the main character, his tragedy, his trauma, his personality, the stuff that he, this isn't really a spoiler exactly. We'll talk about spoilers in a little bit, but like when he hits himself in the head with a rock.
Yep. Because
he doesn't want to go to school. I think because he's getting bullied.
Yep.
And it's very like kind of depressing. Like, and he's like sleeping alone, and he has like no friends, and then like.
But you're also not really rooting for him either, because he's also being standoffish to his family, the people that do care about him and love him. And so I'm like, at least me,
he's being a little bit
it was rough to root for him at first, because I'm like, he's going through a lot of shit, but the people that are trying to be there for him are also, he's pushing them away, and it was rough to watch.
Yeah, he's taking it very like Japanese stoic, like this is my journey I have to do, right?
Yeah, he's like 9 or something, like
exactly
stoic. But it's funny, and it's like. But then we get these. Oh, dude! The first time they showed the heron was so cool. Like, I saw the trailer, but Blaine, what did you think of that when they showed the heron? Like,
when it comes through in the deck and then goes off. So for me, it's even better because like herons are my mom's. What's up, buddy?
Hold on, I gotta correct it. These were budget deers. These are budgies. I have a
budgie bird.
It's adorable. So it's not parakeet. It's a budgie.
And there might as well have been Totoro for all we care.
As a bird lover, this movie got me in that last hour. Just saying. Like Blaine hit me up. He texted me afterwards.
I did. I was like, "Have you seen it?"
How do you feel about the birds?
Well, Miyazaki loves birds. And Camelot likes parakeets.
And you can tell with the way that the bird flies, because like herons are my mother's favorite animal, and my grandpa drew a bunch and has some carvings of them. So like I've grown up kind of like anytime there was a heron, my mom would be like, "Wow, look at that! It's like a dinosaur practically." And like watching the heron how it flew, I was like, "Wow, this is exactly like when mom is like, look at that really cool heron." And you watch it and you're, "Wow, that bird doesn't look like it should be able to fly," but it does. They got that perfect.
Yeah, I mean, the birds, the parakeets, the one guy's a parrot, like the king.
I think so.
Yeah, and then Wind Rises. There's airplanes. You know, Porco Rosso's there's airplanes. Nausicaa, she has this flying machine that uses the whole movie. Miyazaki loves like that sort of aesthetic, that motif, flying and obviously nature and animals and things. And imagination. I think like his imagination brings him into like the realm of like magical creatures and animals. Basically, I think that most people's imaginations kind of take them in that direction anyway.
Yeah,
that's why all his movies feel so universal. It's like, yeah, there's these there's like Totoro's is this giant like teddy bear thing, but like it's adorable. But no, anyway, so when they started introducing the magic in this movie, they did it in this way that's like, I think you could call it like magical realism, which is sort of like a subgenre of like literature, but it's like
it felt like the reality was being peeled away a little bit. Like it wasn't like the magic was coming into our world. It's that our world was sort of like getting ripped away, and we were seeing like the magic behind things.
Right. Like little tears in the dimensions of but you weren't quite sure if it was just the boy's imagination or whatever.
Exactly.
And that is fascinating because, well, I gravitate towards stuff like that anyway. Like my favorite author of all time is Ray Bradbury, and he does a lot of stuff like this. And he'll, some of his characters will see things or experience things that are like magical, and then there's explanations for them, possibly. But this boy and they did a Spirited Away. Like they did this sort of, at first she sees she's driving by this like kind of creepy statue, and then like the tunnel, and they go through the tunnel, and then like things start to like unravel, and then I guess Totoro did the same thing, right? When the kids in Totoro climbed through that little patch of woods, I can't quite remember, and then they stumbled upon Totoro.
They go in Totoro's house.
But it's like it's all connected. And I guess in this movie there's a shrine. There's what would you call it? A shrine or a castle?
Well, it's a castle. They call it a tower in the sub.
Yeah.
And it sort of speaks to like the Japanese Shinto has this idea that like there's the mundane world where we live, and then there's like the sacred realm that like the gods inhabit. And so when you go through a torii gate, you're actually crossing over from the mundane into the sacred world. And so you see that in the way that Miyazaki's done some of his stuff, where it's like you travel through this opening of some kind, and that gets you into the actual sacred realm. But stuff from the sacred realm can always come into ours, and that's sort of like the heron in the beginning there with the magic starts opening up.
Blaine, you said it in the sub, so they call it tower in the dub as well. So I think you saw it subbed. Lofti,
I did too. I saw Japanese.
Oh,
Japanese.
Good. So I've heard that.
Yeah, we're gonna have some different perspectives here, then I imagine, because I bet there will be a little bit of differences. I'm a big Robert Pattinson fan. I wanted to hear,
and I've heard he was great, but you couldn't tell it was him.
So throughout the whole movie, I was waiting for Robert Pattinson. I was like, I know he's in this. When is he going to show up? He was the Heron. I had no idea. He was so fantastic. The guy whose voice I want to hear the most, I was hearing the whole film and didn't realize it was him till reading the credits.
I thought that was something everybody knew going in, but yeah. Like, because I looked up the whole cast, even though I didn't watch the dub. I was just like,
God, you just spoiled the whole movie for yourself before you go. Watching trailers, reading cast lists.
Well, it's hard to avoid. I have to cover it, But
yeah, no, I knew Robert Pattinson was in it, but I actively avoid films that I really want to see. I'll watch like an initial teaser trailer just to confirm, and that'd be it. And so yeah, I watched the teaser for this. I watched the teaser for Godzilla -1. But beyond that, I'm like, it's a Miyazaki film. I know I'm going to find enjoyment, and I know I'm going to love it. So I don't want to be spoiled. other than I heard Pattinson's in it. I really want to hear what he has, what he's able to do, what sort of performance he's able to turn in. And beyond that, I didn't know Willem Dafoe was in the film. I didn't know Batista was in the film. I was purely going to the dub because I wanted to hear what Pattinson could do in Miyazaki's world.
Here's the castle that I was talking about. Wait, no. So this is the village in the beginning.
Yeah, it's like their mansion.
And this is kind of what we were talking about, guys. The beginning of this movie is very much like this kid and his mother's passing. It's right in the beginning of the movie, and it's like this memory of her basically burning in a fire.
She goes out Mary Winchester style.
From firebombs from World War II, right?
Firebombs bomb the hospital she's in.
Yeah,
it's tragic.
And this is just a memory of him and a dream sort of thing.
It's drawn so well.
This now Miyazaki apparently worked with a much bigger studio for this movie. That's what I read.
Okay.
And normally he would. I feel like that's why some of this stuff was way more intense than some of his previous movies. But like this.
Well, also this is his swan song. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure the bigger studio, bigger budget, but when you're when you're Miyazaki and you are a living legend the world over, and you say I'm gonna do one more film, it's go big or go home.
Yeah. Well, and even that opening where it's air raid sirens, fire bombing, his mom's burning in the hospital.
Right.
It stops for him to go put on his outdoor clothes and get his shoes on and go. He doesn't just go running out in his pajamas. It's like even there, the whole film sort of is like, no, we gotta slow down and actually just really feel this tension build.
And then we get to know this little village, right, with all these old ladies, and then this heron pops up and flies by him, and it's like a very magical moment. Very much like I said, Chihiro sees this little statue outside of the tunnel when they're driving their car in the beginning of that movie. It's almost like they're watching. It's almost like it was watching her, sort of like this heron, I think. But it goes away, and then but here's the old ladies.
They were so classically drawn. They're just awesome. like they were from the perspective of a child, just this amalgamation of wrinkles and lumps, and they're each very distinctive, but also like the same sort of entity floating around.
That's exactly what it was, because this movie is from the perspective of a child, and even the world, the other world, is from the perspective of a kid who doesn't quite know what the hell's going on. So that's why the movie seems a little bit disjointed, but it's intentionally done that way, I think.
That was something I had to wrestle with leaving the theater, was that word, because that's a word I used a lot when I was trying to script reviews. It was disjointed. I was like, I don't think disjointed is the right word. I think more like it's intentional chaos, not disjointed.
Right. It's like fragmented, like almost like like when you have a vivid dream, but you can't quite remember everything and why things are the way they are. That's kind of how that's what I felt when I was watching, and I was like, I wasn't frustrated. I was like, I'm just going to let this wash over me. I know exactly what it's doing. It's doing this sort of dreamscape kind of thing with this other world that, from his perspective, it wasn't like I was confused by that. So then maybe that's why I enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I know that I'm not supposed to know. Like, that's the best.
Yeah.
So the Studio Ghibli's warehouse just opened up in the Ghibli Park in Japan, and I got to go on this last trip we just did. And the way you move through this movie felt like walking through that warehouse, where it takes all of the Ghibli aspects, sticks them together, and somehow this stairway leads you from the cat bus to Totoro to The Wind Rises, and now you're in Arrietty Land, and you're kind of going through this, and like from saying that, you're like, oh, it's disjointed, but it flows into each set very naturally.
Yeah, it does. And then like I said, they do such a great job in the beginning of the movie to establish this other world. Like when he picks up this feather and shoots this arrow, it has this like magical property, and it just goes crazy, like out of control. And so this arrow that he took from the heron is like magical, and it affects the real world. And then the frogs. I'm trying to find the frogs. Like here's when Robert Pattinson comes in and is like, what does he say? What's this line?
It's save me.
Save me. Talking about he's like, dude, this is creepy. he's echoing his mother, I think, in this movie.
Yep.
What were you?
Well, he's echoing what he remembers his mom saying, which know, to be debated if he even heard his mom say anything because she was in a hospital that was on fire. But that's what he remembers her shouting to him, right?
Yeah, and it's like this Heron is sort of like a bully. He's like guilt tripping him into like following him into this.
Yeah. Opening scene, Heron comes flying by. I'm like, wow, is that going to be our magical friend that is with us through this journey? And then he's just an ass. You're like, get out of here. Go away.
Dude. And then they fight. This was awesome. This kid doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just hits this. Look, it's right in the trailer. Here comes the Heron, and he just fucking nails it in the face. Hits it with a sword, a wooden sword. But then there's like that frog sequence where they're like, she's waiting for you. Your mother is waiting for you. And this is all before, this is like the first hour of the movie, guys. It's very slow and methodical. And it's like, it's just building this kid's kind of, getting to know who this kid is. And then the tension of him having the desire to go find out what happened to his mom is like,
it's like you're getting this like he hates where he's at, and then I think the Heron is like, oh, he hates where he's at, and this will kind of make him happy. I can have some fun. I can tease him with this. So like, oh yeah, go rescue your mom. You can do it. There's this whole other thing that's going on that you can go do it. Have fun.
And it's like you can
The imagery right here of the Heron slowly revealing, like you get these little glimpses that he's something
not
underneath. You got these human teeth, that Wicked Witch of the West style nose. Like it is haunting in the best way.
It is haunting, and it reminds me of some things from Miyazaki, from Mononoke, which is like, dude, some of those
like the boar god
boars are horrifying to look at, especially when he's stabbed with spears and just bleeding out. Like, Miyazaki does this stuff really well. Now the frogs were cool. I don't. It's somewhere in the trailer, but then there's this tunnel which leads to this. Is there a shot in the trailer of the castle? Let me see if I can find it. But it's just this castle that you find out something about the boy's mother or his adopted mother's uncle. Which one is it?
His
again?
Mom's uncle.
His mom's uncle.
Because the adopted mom is his mom's aunt. Sister. Yeah,
that's right.
It'd be both their uncles, wouldn't it? Because the mom and
exactly. So it's his great uncle either.
Regardless, his great uncle. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have this. His great uncle established this sort of experimental building that is now dilapidated and like nobody uses anymore because he's gone.
Well, and they've sealed it off too. It doesn't
sealed it off, and there was a flood and everything, so it's almost like inaccessible. It almost is realistic. Like, what if there's shit like this in real life? Where it's like, oh, we stumble into some like ancient temple in like Cambodia, and then like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I've done stuff like this. So there's I grew up living in the living out in the country, and so one of the things that we would do is we would just go explore the woods for hours and miles. I mean, I remember this one time, me and my friend, we found an old abandoned like 17 or 1800s farmland that like still had dilapidated farm buildings and like a main household, and we're like, what the hell is this? And it took us like half a day to walk back to his house, and like lo and behold, like, it was probably from the slavery days and whatnot. That was probably a plantation of sorts or something. Like that it was just, you do stumble upon this stuff if you go looking for it. And there's even when because we were 6th grade, like it felt magical to us. We named that place, and we had like our own mind game versions of what it was.
I live in Pennsylvania. We have stuff like that all over the place. There's like abandoned shit all over the place, and I love that stuff. So that's what this feels like, and it's like really cool and haunting and interesting. And then we get to this place inside here, which is sort of like
this big chamber,
this big chamber room, where I guess we don't have to say too many spoilers because like we don't really need to. It's not necessary, but like there's this. The boy sort of gets lured in here and sort of tricked, I guess you would say, or like it's very complicated because he sees what he thinks is his mother, and then it turns out not to be, and it's this lady right here. She's in the trailer. She's like melting. Her face is melting. Here it is.
Yeah,
right here. So she starts melting. And it's like, oh, that's not your real mother. And it's like this. And then this is where the Alice in Wonderland thing happens. There's this guy, this demigod looking creature guy here, who just sort of invites them into his world. And this is like a portal into his world that he invented. And then we go right to this world. And if you guys want to talk about like what you thought now, okay.
Well, real quick, I think I think that since that melty thing's in the trailer, that's specifically what I mean when I'm like, I think the heron was just trying to play a trick on him to like get him, because the heron is as much like we'll say tricked by the big old man in the top as the rest of them. So I think the heron was just trying to tease him and like maybe get something from him. We don't really like learn what that is and who really cares once you get into the movie. But this whole scene leading into this is like one little structure, and then boom, you get sucked into this other one by the old man.
Yeah, I never really felt like the heron had a plan. He was just kind of a dick for the sake of being a dick, just because he enjoys it.
It's the source of his power.
The old man or anything like the old man says something to the heron. I'm not going to say what for spoiler reasons, but he says something to the heron in this scene, and it gives you the impression like, oh, maybe they're not on the same page. That this isn't some sort of like conspiracy or whatnot. The heron's just a dick who happens to live in this world.
Yep.
Yeah, he comes from this world, and I wanted to say when this happened, I was like, even though it's in the trailer, like all these like little things, like this part with the boat, these creatures, this underwater stuff, the Walla Walla, this underwater stuff, right?
The second you saw the Walla Walla, you were like, you knew what they were, right? You were like, yep, I know what these are.
Of course,
I've seen the Chamber of Guff. I know what this is.
So yeah, and then but the point I'm trying to make is like I knew all this stuff was in the trailer, but I didn't expect to be thrown into this like other world entirely, where I'm telling you, at this point in the movie, every 10 minutes I was thinking, I was more and more like, I was like being more, what am I trying to say? I was like, I can't believe how much of the movie takes place in this like magical realm, because it just kept going on and on and on, and then it introduced more shit, and this is the very beginning of it. And I was expecting this to be like a little
Spirited Away, and where Spirited Away, you get to that world relatively quickly, at least
right away.
But you it wants to invite you in and wants you to learn about this world, and as opposed to in this film, it's like, we're not going to teach you anything. You're going to be the exact opposite of Spirited Away. You're going to be just as lost as this boy. You're not going to get a chance to adapt to this world.
Spirited Away, you're in 1-2 locations in the other world, right? There's not a lot to like see and do, whereas this one is much more of like a theme park. Like we're going to Little Marshmallow Land. All right, now it's time to go to Parakeet Land. Like we're traveling through these different like realms and things, which I think leads into my theory on the whole show.
Well, and they don't explain stuff, which is like, I love when that happens, because one of my favorite games ever is Shadow of the Colossus, and it's just like that game doesn't explain anything. It does in the context of like this overall story of like what's happening, but no one knows how these things were made, where they came from, who lived in this civilization millions years ago. Clearly,
what their purpose even
what
is.
The hell? And Miyazaki's does this a lot too. Like if you look at Castle in the Sky, the history of that castle is really not explored.
No.
And I at least from what I can remember, maybe.
And we learn a lot of whats. We learn a lot of whats. Like, oh, what is that? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, what is it?
Why are they here? How did they get here?
It's described. This is not a spoiler. It's just like a little tidbit. It's described that these people can't hunt for themselves, so she hunts for them. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And then she cuts up the fish, and they all buy chunks of it, and it's
this. Okay. Essentially, what happens, guys, and then you can talk, and I have to go to the bathroom quick. I'll set this up, and you can go on from there. What happens is Miyazaki, probably has all of these, like this whole world like fleshed out and like knows what these things are, where they came from and everything. But it's not the point of this movie, because this movie is not Nausicaa. It's not an adventure story, that's world building in the same way. It is from the perspective of this boy, and when he has no idea what the fuck is going on. And so the audience also is supposed to kind of be like the boy in the movie, and like from his perspective. But Miyazaki knows this, and the way he presents this stuff is not confusing. It's just like a matter of fact, like, oh, okay, that makes sense now that I've seen it, kind of what Blaine was saying. But you guys can continue to talk about what you thought of this introduction to this kind of world building stuff. I'll be right back.
Getting down to this world was super interesting, and it's the way that you do that I think is so important, because we don't just show the people showing up to like buy fish or anything like that. We get the explanation. Oh, they can't hunt, so we're selling it to them. It's like we're literally told like why they're there, but then like you're not told like their backstory, because that doesn't matter. They're just people that are there because they can't hunt for their own meat, so they've got to come get it from this lady. Who is this lady? Where'd she come from? We have our suspicions, but like you don't like. It's not important yet. Why is she giving a kid a knife and just letting him like start chopping up the fish? Like she trusts this kid for some reason. She doesn't even know this kid. Like he's gonna ruin her fish. But letting us just kind of like think like we're given enough to be okay with what the scene is doing, but we're not given so much that we know everything that's happening on every square inch. And I think that's what's really important about a show like this.
Well, I hate to keep bringing up Spirited Away, but like there's another point of contrast. I think was probably done like this, I would imagine intentionally, is that in Spirited Away, you feel like this is the other world is a existing, thriving community where people know each other's names, where there's probably their own economic system, and where they've got rules and regulations. Whereas this world just seems haphazardly thrown together, and everyone's left to fend for themselves. This world is the magical Lord of the Flies.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to and again, I think that if you're going to do that whole here's a boy in a magical world, which is something that we've seen before in Ghibli, you need to find ways to make it different, so you're not just this movie isn't just hitting Miyazaki's greatest hits. This isn't a greatest hits tour for their last album. This is there's going to be some familiar concepts, because we've got
I disagree. I think it is.
Really?
When we get into spoilers, I really do think this is. But I think it's the greatest tour from the view of a Western kid. I don't think that, as much as Mahito is like reacting like a very Japanese stoic way, I think the way these worlds are set up and the way we're brought through them is so that we're not supposed to understand anything. Because like you said with Spirited Away, there's stuff that we don't quite get, but you and I don't get. But when you get into like the yokai and some Shinto stuff, you're like, oh, this makes a lot more sense now. When you watch something like Spirited Away. So there's an understanding that someone in Japan would have that like even we don't. And I think this show is the greatest hits tour from a perspective of someone not Japanese.
Okay, that's an interesting takeaway. So yeah, I hadn't looked at it from that perspective. But then again, you're smarter than me. You wear glasses, so
it's true. Plus 20, and I'm a real person.
I'm the only one who's not a real person here. I'm an AI VTuber. I think this is the house that one in the other world. Did you talk about the ships while I was gone?
No.
Yeah, there's I believe it's Porco Rosso. There's
with the planes in the sky. That's also in Wind Rises, I believe.
Oh, Wind Rises. Yeah, there's like a fleet of dead pilots that are like it's.
Yeah, as in both Porco Rosso and the Wind Rises. Yeah. It's two second and third favorite Ghibli films.
It's just constant motifs that are prior Miyazaki films repeating themselves, but it's like Blaine is pretty much on point. It's like a greatest hits sort of thing.
Well, see, while you were gone, I said it's not a greatest hits, and let me
go ahead.
On that, because when I say it's not a greatest hits, what I mean is that's not all there is. There is more substance to this.
Oh, there's a lot more. Yeah,
the greatest hits are like the icing on the cake, the cherry on the sundae. You can you can get so much out of this film and having not seen or understand the references to previous Ghibli stuff.
Totally.
Especially with stuff like this part. Now, this is probably a big spoiler, but we don't have to talk much about it. But like this scene, and then like the story stuff is very.
I love his father. Sorry, you put an image up there. He is underrated character. His father was the man. He's only in like 5 scenes, but my goodness.
And every time he's like, I'll kill his children. It's so good.
Dude, he's trying to get his boy back.
I know, I empathized.
And this is a great scene, guys, when the realm blends in with the real world, and like they become birds, but at first they're huge, so he's trying to kill them.
And then they're tiny little budgies, and then he's covered in bird shit, and I'm like, yep, that's how it works.
As somebody who has a house-trained bird that just flies around my house like I'm constantly cleaning up bird shit. Like it's just it's like my couch is leather that way I can just wipe it away. I was like, yep, I know what that guy's going through. I've been on stream with my bird on my shoulder, and he just shit on my shoulder while streaming. I'm like, yep, that's he's like, bird. Like,
be right back, guys. I got to clean up bird shit. Like,
yeah. It's funny.
Also, pelicans are the asshole always.
Yeah,
even in anime.
But what Paradise was saying is like basically the story stuff is exclusively poignant for this movie because of the relationship the boy has with the old man and his mother. It's all very specific to the movie, but then you're icing on the cake stuff. You're right. It's like, you know, it's very metaphorical. It's very surreal and sort of symbolic of. There's this element of in the movie of Miyazaki grappling with his legacy and his and his world building, his imagination, what he's done, what he's accomplished. Has he done enough? Should he pass on the mantle to another creator, or should his worlds just kind of die when he does? Like there's all of these things. Like, did you guys get that stuff when you're watching it? Towards the end, I sort of was like, okay, this is Miyazaki kind of doing a self-memoir kind of thing, but it took me a little.
And not only is it a self-memoir, but I could be wrong, but I was talking about this film a little bit on a different stream last night. I was with Angry Canadian, and we were talking about The Legend of Zelda, but you know, this came up because we were talking about Japanese motifs and whatnot, and Nerdporial stated that that he had made this film for his grandchildren, and I didn't know that, but if that's accurate, the sort of is there or is there not a passing of the torch moments, because it leaves it ambiguous, you know, so it makes you think that, okay, there's this this in real life nepotism allegory that might be here, but it's going to be but maybe it's not there. Because I'm not Miyazaki, because I don't have Miyazaki's, I don't know if that's going to be something that was read into or if that was intentionally there.
I feel like it's not even like ambiguous. I feel like it's all right, goodbye. Like, I'm done. This is it.
Right.
It's gone now.
But it's not done because he's making another movie. Is that what you're talking about? Like he's done in terms of like being an artist?
I think with Blaine, the way this film is portrayed, yes, this is a last film sort of thing. Now, is he making another one? Of course he's making another one because he's fucking Miyazaki. But like, you watch this, whenever he finally stops making film, you can watch this one again, and it will still be as important as a last final film.
Yeah, I agree. Now, this stuff, I loved all of these little this girl, where's she at?
The
this
Hide princess?
Other girl, who was she? What was her actress, the English version? I think she's somebody famous. I'm trying to find her. The lady on the boat.
Oh, the boat lady? That one.
Yeah, this lady here. She's coming up.
Let's see. I will look up the cast right now.
So this character was the one that I was like struggling to understand her, not purpose, but like it does a good job of establishing that this person's been in this realm forever, or for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good at navigating, and they know what I'm trying to say.
They have like a business at this point. Like,
but this character is just not. I don't know. I like the character, but I'm just struggling to kind of.
It was Florence Pugh is who played her in the indie stuff.
Yeah, but she sort of just acts as like is it a Virgil? Like when Dante goes Dante goes the allegory, the Dante's Inferno.
No, someone hid deleted Camelot's message.
Oh shit! What did he say?
I don't know.
Camelot's getting banned all over the world. No, when Dante goes into hell in the 9 circles or whatever in the Inferno, he's led by Virgil, and I think he's like that. Virgil's like his guide. I don't know. This lady just kind of seemed like sort of like that. Like she's like a guide, and she helps him understand this world a little bit, so he can basically just get to the point, so he can find his mother and all these things. That's kind of what I got out of her character.
And Anonymous says Miyazaki just wanted to buff boat mommy, and let me tell you, we got a buff boat mommy.
Yeah, she's absolutely cool.
I think
like her a lot.
I think her the reveal at the end was just perfect. Like I think the whole movie you're like, well, so
I'm not trying to toot my own horn or like I'd be a jerk when I was like, oh, that is insert character here. Like I knew it immediately just because of what she was wearing.
Right. So you know exactly and immediately, but your whole question is why? Why is she this? And then they give you've already kind of gotten the explanation earlier in the movie, but then they tie it back in at the end with like, oh no, we have to go this way. And you're like, okay, I get it now. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
And then like I said, she does this little kind of tour of this world, and it's really cool. These things. Where's the gate? Oh, it's in the beginning. This is so cool. The imagery is unbelievable. There's this gate, and then he's like, there's these pelicans that try to eat him, right? They're pelicans?
Yep, they're pelicans. The worst bird in the world.
He saves him, and there's like this ritual that you have to do to like, you have to turn your back and like walk backwards or something, and it's so, like the world build, it's very like Miyazaki probably knows like what the fuck is going on, but he's just like, the audience doesn't need to know everything. Like this is gonna, and it's just I love it.
This is his last film, hypothetically. So I mean, what's the old adage? Is leave him wanting more.
Yeah, but actually, I want a Nausicaa movie in this world, and I want to know what the fuck these things. You know what I mean? This movie made me want that, and that's a good thing. I think that's a sign of a good world building and storytelling. But I wasn't concerned with that at the time watching this movie, because all I really cared about was this kid and his mother and this connection he had, and the old man. And there's so much going on there.
Now, when you say his mother, okay, yeah. I don't want to get into spoilers. We'll wait.
It's complicated, guys.
It's complicated.
First of all, before we talk about that, where's this other part?
Bautista.
These little guys, these little creatures, I showed them earlier. These little puffy things. Walla Walla?
Yeah, the Walla
Wada.
Wada Wada. They're somewhere. They're literally from like Spirited Away, right?
The things that are behind you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the things right behind me.
The little marshmallow babies,
guys. I'll just do it. This is a little spoiler, but it's very important. It's kind of like part of the theme, right? These things are pre-humans.
Yeah. So in Jewish tradition, you've got the chamber of Guff that's full of souls, and God keeps throwing souls into people, and when he runs out, end of the world. So these are the babies in the chamber of Guff.
So if you don't want any spoilers at all, I wouldn't even watch the trailer, to be honest. But going forward, we'll talk a little spoiler talk. But just so you know, guys.
Finally.
But these things are pre-humans, and what they do is they eat stuff until they're big enough
fish guts.
They eat fish guts until they're fat enough to do this little ascension into the real world, and to basically turn into babies.
Yep.
It's like the Virgin Mary.
Because in the film, the uncle, the great uncle, I couldn't tell. Maybe it's just because I'm dumb, or he didn't. Did he find this land, or did he create this land? Because it seems like he found it, and so this has always been
found and created.
So okay, so I'm not alone because he at least created the gateway to get there by mistake or something to that effect. Because this world seems to have always been, if this is how people are coming, where people are coming from.
The area has always been, but the way in which it looks and the way in which we travel through it and the different areas we get to have all been crafted by him.
Okay. And influenced by him, because the bird, the
like he brought the pelicans in. He brought the
so the parakeets then essentially Miyazaki, the old man in this movie, is Miyazaki, and essentially what I got out of it, watching Nausicaa again recently and all this stuff, is Miyazaki's character, this old man character, this inventor, this world builder, kind of fucked up and is unintentionally destroying this world, or like manipulating it in ways he didn't intend. Like, no, the parakeets that he brought are now eating these things, right?
Or the pelicans, yeah.
And the pelicans are now eating these creatures, and it's like there's like this.
Well, I mean, miscarriages happen. That was the same idea.
I know, but like
it's supposed to be the darkness.
To happen necessarily, right? Because the pelicans migrated here for some reason. I have to watch the movie again.
He brings the pelicans in,
right? So, you know what I mean? So it's almost like this metaphor for like in Mononoke, where the humans come and they sort of like start fucking with the world that existed before they got there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think he's just doing it again in a different way in this movie. But yeah, and then
well, since we're touching on spoilers, you said the relationship between the boy and his mother. Which one do you mean? Because by the end of it, I was looking at the other character as his mother. He acknowledges her as mother, and like to me, that was the true journey, was to acknowledge this woman as his mom, because his mom she's gone, she's not coming back.
Yeah, this girl is his sister, his mom's sister.
Yeah,
who is his adopted.
Aunt. It's his aunt and now mom.
Aunt. Yeah,
his aunt and now mom. And as somebody who I'm a stepchild who calls my dad. I refer to him as dad. He's raised me since birth, even though we're not biologically related. Which, granted, these two are, but even though we're not biologically related, to me, he is dad. And that's the vibe I got from this, is like, learning to accept that somebody not only can take over that role, but actually can that word and that role can mean something. They can honor that, and it's not disrespectful to the previous title holder of, in this case, the role of mom, or the name mom.
Yeah. I definitely realized fairly quickly that he cared about this girl, to the point where he was like, okay, you're I'm not trying to replace.
His fault that she's like that. Because I mentioned earlier that he was being so standoffish, and it alludes to the fact that him being a dick to her is what has her bedridden and sick.
Oh, right, because earlier in the movie he goes to see her, and
to be fair though, the old lady is like, she's having trouble in childbirth just like your mom did, so it could just be genetically they've got bad childbirth.
Oh yeah, but no, I like earlier,
because I think it was two separate. It's two separate things. So if we're gonna like get into spoilers, in space there's a big rock, and this rock crashes on this property way back in the day, and Great Uncle becomes obsessed with the rock, and is hanging out on the rock, and then just eventually builds this tower around the rock and has trouble doing that, and then disappears into the rock, and no one sees him ever again. And then that whole, like, I'll do a little bit of the real and then the metaphor. That's Miyazaki getting absorbed into anime creation. That is him becoming a director. That is him making all these movies that we love, everything, and just absorbing his entire life into creation and disappearing from like the regular world to focus on his job.
When you say rock, you're talking about, oh fuck, where is it?
The big space stone that falls down.
Yeah.
And that big space stone is some sort of dimensional connection to the Chamber of Guff, I'm going to call it for the sake of this.
Sure.
where unborn babies are soul created and then travel into our world. And when he gets in there and he starts communicating with the rock, he then starts making all of these fantastical worlds. And so I think while we don't really get this in the movie, but I think while he's creating these worlds, he's like, oh, I like this idea of like a shipwreck place and they have to fish for their stuff. There's water everywhere. And he's making this. And then he's like, oh, shipwreck worlds have pelicans. And he brings in pelicans. And then it disturbs the ecosystem. But he's just crafting these different things.
Right.
And those are like the movies and the films that he's creating. And then when we go explore them, we see them as like what's happening, but we really don't have a great idea, of all his movies of everything that's happening, right? We talked a little bit about Spirited Away, but most of his movies have some amount of like, I'm not going to explain this because I think it's better for you to figure it out on your own. And that's sort of the expression as we're going through these different areas as the kid is like, what do we know? What do we not know? And we're just trying to survive. Like, oh yeah, I like this. This is an interesting area.
That was something because again, I mentioned my first Ghibli movie was Kiki's Delivery Service, and that was even then for a movie as simple as that. There's not a whole lot of other worlds or anything. It's just like, hey, in this world, witches exist. Why? Don't explain. The society knows about them. Why? Doesn't really matter. How do they integrate? I mean, they do odd jobs just like any other person. Like it's just more of a here's these characters that exist in a world. We're not going to tell you a whole lot about it. Yeah. And for anyone and I've been guilty of this, for anyone that says multiverse movies are bad, they're dumb, we need to stop them. This movie proves that no, you can do them right because there's a multiverse element to this that is because they don't explain it. That's what makes it work. It's
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I think the multiverse thing can work if it's good. Anything can fucking work. It's like people are like, I'm sick and tired of superhero movies or like slasher movies or whatever. It's like, no, if it's good, you're gonna enjoy it. Like,
and I think with this too, we've got old man Miyazaki who's created all of these worlds and all this stuff, hoping people will enjoy it. Who's now looking at all his work and being like, okay, I need someone to take over and do my work now that I'm old and don't want to keep doing it. That's sort of the idea of the movie is he's calling Mahito in to be his successor, but he also calls the mom who's pregnant to come in too. And I think he's doing that so that he can take the kid and be a successor as well, potentially. I think
the
both
kid
of
as
those,
in the unborn child?
The unborn kid, yeah.
The unborn kid, guys, okay, so hold on a second. Let me find it. It was the scene with the lady, with this part here.
Yeah, right here.
She's giving. There's a birthing chamber in the movie, right?
Yeah, and she's also having trouble giving birth, and then this birthing chamber will make it less difficult because it's in the magic world.
Is that, unless I'm wrong, the birthing chamber is what was on the other side of the gate. When he breaks through the gate and you see that that cave, when they're in this birthing chamber, it's the other side of that cave across from the gate.
Yeah, dude.
That's
there's
definitely
so much,
the feeling.
I'm sure there's interpretations of this that people have and others that contradict it, but like, this could be very well be like sort of like a sacred room that's like protected for the safety of the child and the mother. I don't know, there's like, feminist values in this movie as well. He's always had feminist values in his films, like, appreciating women, and for like basically the magic of childbirth. Maybe that's part of it. Because it is a fucking magical thing, right? I don't wish I could fucking give birth, but it's like undeniably like a magical thing. I don't know. This movie just is probably going to be talked about for a very, very, very long time, and people are going to come away with different interpretations. But this scene, he doesn't give. I don't think he cares about the kid here. I think he just wants to recognize that this woman has her own agency. She's not like a replacement of his mom. She's her own person, and like I just really like the heartwarming vibes of the scene. I don't know, that's what I got from it.
Right. Well, I think the reason she gets pulled in the first place though is because she's about to give birth, and it'll be easier in there, and it could be another descendant that could take over.
Oh, words. You were saying about the descendant. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like the great uncle is looking for a descendant. So he's like, oh, she can come in here, give birth, and then that kid can take over my legacy of all these different worlds. Because he's like, I've been building these and crafting them, and they're unstable and they're gonna fall over if someone doesn't, keep doing it, because he's left before. And then when his son made Tales from Earthsea, everyone was like, boo, rightfully so. But
I say that was not good. Yeah.
So he's already wrestled with this idea of needing someone to take over. And at the end of the film, the biggest spoiler of all is when he says, take over and do this for me. You can do this. And then the kid says no and leaves, and then the world disappears, and the great uncle dies. Essentially, we don't see it happen, but we just assume he does. And it's Miyazaki saying, "Okay, yep. When I'm done, this can all go away. I don't care. No one has to take over and keep making Ghibli movies when I die."
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's kind of sad because his poor kid has no probably wants to kill himself. It's like my dad hates me. There's no confidence in anything I do. I'm gonna go. But
because there's also the scene of the king of the budgeteers, the king parrot, who he's like, anyone could do this. I could do this, and he builds the building blocks, and it only expedites the erasure of this world, because not anyone can do it. This is not a job that just anyone can do.
Yep.
Like this king, they at first you think he's a bad guy. He's not really a bad guy. He's trying to save his kingdom. He sees
his little Totoro budgie friends.
Yeah, he wants this world to continue, because his life and the life of all of his subjects exist within this world.
And maybe because he tries to fix it, it fails and it collapses and it destroys this world, right?
Yeah, and he also smashes it in half, so that doesn't help either.
Right, but is there anything there that is suggesting that Miyazaki doesn't think anyone can do what he's doing except himself?
Yes. Yes. And I think it's him saying it's okay. Like the other directors, other people that he's taught, that kind of thing, like they can do their own thing. Anno worked with Miyazaki, went on to do his own thing, but you would never call Evangelion a Miyazaki film. Like, it has no DNA that connects directly, but the work ethic, the idea behind like these complicated worlds where we don't tell people things, like you can see those strands, but there's nothing direct from there. And I think it's just cutting off, like, when I'm done with this, just end it. Don't keep trying to like milk my style until people hate it.
I mean, Lofty, you and I were on stream together. I think it was Monday, and you referred to this film's messaging as esoteric, and I don't think there's a better word for this other than that. I mean,
yeah, and I think, sorry, I was just reading something on Twitter about this, and I can't remember.
Oh, you weren't reading the fact that you got a new member?
I got a new member. We got members. Wait. What happened?
Look at that. Summarize 19.
Hi, hey, buddy. What's up, Summers? This guy shows up to all my streams. So thank you for becoming a member, my boy. We have memberships, guys. It's in the join button, thingy-majig.
Nice.
I keep forgetting about it. But yeah, last week Camelot donated like 10 memberships, and then some other guy did, and it was just like boom, bada boom, bada boom. That's a fun. Whenever that happens, it's very entertaining.
Nice.
But yeah, thanks for being here, guys. So I wanted to address this comment. Feminist Boar and Lake Huron is a 0 out of 10. I think this is a joke. Maybe.
So Jemmy's from my chat, and we found a guy back to back. His name's Adam. Adam Does Movies, and he hated Godzilla -1. Would rather have watched the 99 or 98 Godzilla, and also called this movie The Boar and the Heron. So that's the new meme on my channel, is this guy who just can't recognize good film. If it's not featuring him or someone actiony who he likes, he's just like, I don't get it. This is boring.
Yeah, no. See, Jim and I he's in my chat all the time as well. He's a top tier troll, like in the best way, like in a very endearing way.
Well, he brings up a good point, because not knowing this person, I mean, there are a lot of people that are just like, they hear the word feminist and then they're just like, well, I'm out,
Yeah.
But Miyazaki has been doing that his whole career.
He makes us love nature.
He makes us, and he's very environmentalist. He's very pro-environmentalism, very pro-feminism, except when we're talking about the words, people use them in like this fourth wave, context that makes no sense. And then it gets muddled. Like actual feminism there's nothing wrong with it. Like, you know, appreciating, like we were talking about this earlier, and like environmentalism. Clearly, we pollute the oceans. Like, duh. Like, you know, we fuck up. We're destroying the Amazon rainforest. It's happening in real time. There's nothing wrong with talking about and making art about that at all. And I love that about Miyazaki. I think but he does it in a way that is like, oh man, it's like, it also engages your imagination.
Well, and he has the argument about it, right? Yeah. Like, we go to Princess Mononoke, and it's like, wow, look, the forests are getting destroyed. But then look at these poor people that have jobs now because the forest is being destroyed. And you have a little bit of a like, oh man, what is more important? What should we be taking care of? So it's not just like, oh, save nature, or, you know, hey, look at how cool people are. It's like actually making those two things clash. Spirited Away. My life sucks and my parents ignore me and I don't like what they're doing to me. I don't like all this stuff. Here's a world where I can have everything I kind of want. And you clash those two different extremes together and you get an interesting story rather than just bitching about one side or the other.
Well, you said the words. There's an interesting story. What Miyazaki, because almost every Miyazaki film, almost every Miyazaki film has a message to it, and frankly, a progressive message. But it's never on the nose. The message is he's not making the film, at least by my estimation, he's not making the film to get a message across. He's putting a message and a story he already wants to. Like, there's a story he wants to tell. There's a message he clearly holds value in, but the story will always come first. And it's
well, look at Ponyo. Ponyo had the opportunity to be like this super pro environmentalist Save the Oceans movie, and it turned out to be a love story, you know?
Yep.
Or a story about friendship or whatever you want to call it. And it's like,
it's a love story. They'll grow up.
Yeah. And the one he's like, I love Ponyo, and Ponyo's like, woohoo! Like,
yeah. It's so great.
It's a great movie. But no, like that was the core of them. And then going forward, it was like, yeah, like he does this with everything. It's like,
I mean, I know, again, we're not supposed to get stuck on talking about Miyazaki. That's for a later stream and whatnot. But, you know, The Wind Rises, that's a movie that's obviously it's very a fantastical retelling. But it's about the dude that would go on to invent the airplanes that would be used by kamikaze pilots. And yeah, you could go this very dark route with it, but instead he wants to focus on this guy he did wonders for the world of aerodynamics and whatnot. Like, celebrate the positive scientific creations that he did, not the death that came about because of it.
Yeah,
that's for Godzilla to tackle.
Kamikaze. I talked about this in my review, and it's like, yes, he has this nihilistic take on humanity, humans in period, and people. He doesn't like people as a people, as a whole. He doesn't like us, but it's always bookended by like the like, yes, he doesn't like people, and like we fuck up, and like he's depicting all of these fuck ups in different ways, like in especially in Spirited Away, when it's very pronounced with the river spirit being like poison or polluted, right? And then they clean him and he's better. It's but the way that they it's so magical. It's like it's always like surrounded by love and optimism and you know, for sort of like retribution and forgiveness and all these different, you know, positive messaging that's like it's just all over the place. So he is like, maybe he's cynical, but he clearly doesn't want to be cynical.
I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of people that exist right now, at least for me, I mean, that's something that I go through, that I grapple with quite literally on a daily basis. Is it's so easy to get cynical and wrapped up in, you know, whatever's going on in the culture or whatever right now, politics, so the social circles, but also you want to have that hope. All Miyazaki films, almost all Miyazaki films, not Grave of the Fireflies, but almost all Miyazaki films are
that wasn't him though. That wasn't him. That's just Ghibli.
That's true. That's Ghibli. It's not Miyazaki. That's just Ghibli. Yeah. There's a message of hope, or at least you know, there's some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, and that's something that is really missing just in the public, you know, consciousness right now. So movies like these that keep that alive or not just movies, stories that keep a light at the end of the tunnel alive is real important for just
and
audiences.
Yeah. And his characters, there are no pure evil villains that like
the Heron. We're like, he's evil, but is he? Is he just a dick?
No, like he's just a dick. Like,
and then at the end, he's a bro. You're like, okay.
No,
and also in the end,
he says you and I are not friends or allies. Right here, he says it right here. You see this? You and I are not friends or allies.
Yeah, but then they're bros.
Then they're bros.
Exactly.
But the Heron didn't go through any massive change of heart. Like he looks at Mahito and he's like, "You and I are cool now." That being said, I'm not really gonna change my ways. I'm still gonna be an asshole. Like that's the takeaway I got. Is like, well, you and I are cool, but I'm not a better person or anything, or a better bird.
I know, but isn't the guy, if you go back to Mononoke, isn't the Billy Bob Thornton, guy character also sort of an asshole, and he even tries to steal the head of the god, but he's not evil. Like if you
exactly.
But as much as I love Avatar, okay, James Cameron needs to make the third movie. Well, he stopped doing the humans bad, Na'vi good generic storytelling. That's Miyazaki and him do similar things with environmentalism and sort of like, epic adventure stuff. But Miyazaki is so much more nuanced, and his villains are more, interesting and stuff like that.
Well, do you think that's a cultural thing, Eastern versus Western? Because I think that would be the reason why Miyazaki's more nuanced.
Depends. I mean, there's a lot of villains in anime that are pure evil.
There are some like pure evil in Japan, but there's also like, look at every shonen for decades, right? The bad guy becomes my buddy for the next fight. Right. Like that's a very
or Madara has a very compelling argument or something.
Whereas, I mean, I like to use Dragon Ball as the example. For Frieza is unequivocally a bad guy. He's bad for the sake of being bad. But to me, that's also something that I don't want my villains to always have compelling motivations, because I don't know if you guys have ever done this. When you're a little kid,
that's fair. Yeah.
When you're a little kid, sometimes it just feels good to be bad. Everyone's like stolen a piece of candy from the convenience store or something when you're like 6, not because you're a bad kid, but because on that you had that whim of like, I want to do something bad, and it feels good to do it. Hopefully you grow out of that phase, but
I'm not saying
that's, go on. Sorry.
You're right. I'm not saying it should be black and white one way or the other. There's got to be a mix of free. I like my genocidal maniacs.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, I think when you're telling a story like Avatar, that's the kind of story that would benefit from like more nuanced characters.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, and you can have one genocidal maniac, but everybody else should have a little bit more nuance to them.
Right. Don't have the fisherman people be like, yeah, I love killing whales.
Yeah, every single one. Like one of them has to be like, well, this is how I feed my family. Like you got to give them a little bit of something.
But no, so anyway, so like there's this other part. Somebody said tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me. Did you guys get 2001 Space Odyssey vibes from this movie?
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. the second that the tunnel was just like this big light hallway, I was like, where's the obelisk at the end? Is it just going to be the stone? Yeah.
Dude, it's true. The other side is like this like liminal space.
All the arches. And then there's like the hallway that has like all the doors that go to like different time periods. And that's where it's like, okay, you see him sort of enter the stone, the great uncle, and you're kind of like, okay, so then the stone is not just like this rock, like it has more space inside of it. So like each one of these like holes could be one of these tunnels that goes somewhere.
Right.
And then it also goes like into other time periods and stuff, and that's where like I think when they like melted in originally, I think the grandma like fell into that place and like got sucked through like a door.
As well.
I don't think so, Crow. I don't think. Does he hate me as Lord of the Rings? I don't think so.
I don't know. He might.
I don't know.
He hates lots of stuff.
If he does, he's wrong.
I never said Miyazaki was perfect.
Yeah. No. Now, if you haven't seen this movie and we're talking about 2001 references, like you're going to be lost. But basically, it's like this is the part of the movie where you sort of enter this this like birth and rebirth and destruction sort of like fissure in like the dimensional. I'm doing a terrible job of describing this, but like
now you know why I couldn't do a review.
Yeah. But it's
I mean the rock, the stone, the space they're in is where souls go from being like souls into like bodies of babies that are being born. So like, of course, it has like these other dimensions, like other areas, and like weirdness to it. Like those have to come from somewhere, and just the way they express that is very like this leads to like a garden.
Those doors.
I loved this concept because what you said about Kikiro, I think is the old woman /
the grandma.
The name, and like because you see them sinking through the floor near the halfway point that takes them to this world, and I was under the impression that okay, so she sunk into one of these doors, and that's why she is portrayed the way that she is, and
because she's trying to leave. She doesn't fall in the same place they do. She's like trying to get out of there, and like in doing that has now gone somewhere else where now she's a young woman who's doing boat stuff.
Also, while we're on these doors, the characterization of his young mother and him like was so expertly done, because even though she's a kid, you kind of have this impression that she knows who Mahito is. The whole time she knows that is her son in the future, and there's this very protective, there's very, even though they're both the same age, give or take, and they're friends, there's a very motherly protection sort of instinct between the two when they're on screen together.
And two things about this. Number one, she is immune to fire in this character is immune to fire.
She is fire.
Yeah,
she is fire. I'm okay with movies that do these sort of cliches that like, oh, because she was killed by fire, therefore in the past she was like made of fire. It's almost like, okay, this isn't even real. It's metaphorical. It's like, but that's totally fine with me, because like I think the imagination and the intent behind it is more important to me than, is this real? Is this actually, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Well, and the way that we see the first little bit of magic in this world, with Kikyo doing the little like the fire line in the grass that burns it, like it kind of lets you see that like fire is just magic in this world. So if she just shot magic at stuff, like cool, it's the same idea, but because we were going to maintain that theme of fire, and it also like ties into like destruction, right, where like this world is ending, we're going to burn the world, or we're killing this part of the world to like keep this other part safe. Yeah.
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you said like you weren't sure what you were trying to say. I think I know what you were trying to say. Basically, what you were trying to say was that cliches they exist for a reason. As long as they're done well, use them. There's a reason cliches are here. Just make sure you don't, if you're gonna use a cliche, like the multiverse conversation from earlier, do it right.
And but what you're right. That's what I was saying. What I actually meant is a bit deeper. This movie is about dealing with guilt or coping with trauma, and the way that they establish that this is his mother in the past, and that she is not only isn't her injured by fire, but that's her personality, that's her being. It's a way of like taking that guilt away from the boy and allowing him to like cope with the death of his mother. It's very, very emotional and poignant, and it's like that's the point of this part of the story. I think it's more about not the boy was traumatized, and it's like, okay, if you could, whatever you could do to take that trauma away and like kind of make him feel better about it, even though a real person dying in a fire is not going to be magical. It's going to be brutal and depressing, but like this is trying to like alleviate that in a little bit. That's kind of, does that make sense? Yeah,
I can kind of see that. I think it was more so just being able to like meet her and be with her, get that one last little bit of conversation, right. And here is a great scene. When did you guys realize this was his mother? The second you see her, when she's shooting fire, you're like, oh, hey, it's mom.
Okay.
I didn't know it was her as a child, because like we hadn't really been revealed that little bit yet. But when you've got, I went to Magic World where spirit babies exist, and then there's a creature shooting fire, and we've seen all this imagery of his mom like as a fire spirit. I was like, oh hey, we found mom. Like but then you get into like how she actually got in here, how long she's been here, all this kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, this is probably not exactly what I thought it was. So I loved that.
Yeah, for me, I think it might have been this scene. It might not be in the trailer, but when here it is. It might be like
when she shows up.
I was thinking. I thought back to the previous scenes, and I was like, "Wait, I think I connected the dots here."
When she calcifers herself into the world, that was a fun one.
Because this is similar to the earlier shot of her in the fire, his actual mother, inside the fire, and I was like, "Yeah."
And the way the fire is drawn is similar, which it makes sense, being that it would be like the same studio drawing the fire that he got to do it. But like, you also connect like, oh, this motif to this motif.
Yeah, and but the other question I was having when I was watching it was like, okay, well, I know what's going on, but like, does the boy know this is his mother? And eventually he acknowledges it, but when does he know? Do you
it's when he's eating bread with her, right?
Do you get the sense that he's because he never really like has a freak out moment, like, you're my mom, what the fuck? Like, that never happens in this movie.
No. And I think that too goes to that like idea of Japan is like, just stay, do good, be stoic, be quiet. Like we joked earlier, like, oh, he's a 9-year-old who's stoic, but like, kids in Japan are pretty dang stoic. Like the loudest they are is they come up to you and they're like, hello, where are you from? And they do it like very politely, but like you can from a very young age they'll be very like
it's just it's a
reserved, I would say.
It's a cultural thing. What do you guys think about this book that was given to him? This is the one thing that I need to watch the movie again. I can't. It went by a little too. I was thinking about another part of the movie when I was watching this. I was daydreaming, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this?" What did you take away? Like, this is his mother writing something to him, and I don't quite remember what it was, but it was like this. Yeah.
I have books that my mom has like written letters in that I'm sure if I came across when she finally dies, would just be really impactful. And so because that's a normal thing for me to encounter in my life, I didn't really think anything of it other than just coming across stuff that was sort of left behind, and it's like, oh, this is from them, and just to sort of because there's a like I just said, right, the kid's like not really reacting to a lot of stuff, and then he hits himself in the head to like not go to school, and so you have all of these very like, he doesn't look like he's dealing with anything, and then you show him this and it's like, okay, he is really struggling with this, and here's our direct in the face in case you didn't catch the subtext earlier.
Well, that's fair. Even though they showed him struggle in the beginning of the movie when he was, look at him. Just look at him. He's miserable.
But that's from being bullied. Maybe it's not from it's like you've got some. His mom. It is. And,
I mean, why not?
I know it is.
Mom just died, and you got the shit kicked out of him by bullies. You can be upset about both.
So I think it's just to give the audience that little bit extra of like, yes, it really is the mom that's driving, or the loss of his mother that's driving all of this.
No, that makes sense. Dude, there's so much like, I'm only going by trailer, and there's a lot more to talk about. I might only have another 15 minutes or so, but is there anything big that you guys want to address? Oh, one thing, holy fuck. The score to this movie is amazing. I don't know what you guys thought of it, but I've been listening to this shit for the past 2 weeks, and I put it in my intro today, at the beginning of the stream. I'm sorry, like this might be one of his best scores. Like, I don't know, man. I love it so much.
Well, and the main theme that plays, the one that you used for the for your intro, they use it. I think you only hear it 4 or 5 times throughout the entire 2-hour runtime, but they use it in just perfect moments. Like, not only is the score good, but it's also well placed. It doesn't overstay its welcome. They know, like, when you think of Jurassic Park, bum bum dum bum dun, 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 that's actually only in the movie like 3 times. Like, it's stuck with us all these years, but it's only in the first film 3 different times throughout that whole movie. This movie does the exact same thing with its main theme.
It does, but the thing is, it's not even like it's probably the best song, but like there's other stuff. There's one song called "The Great Collapse" that I think plays at the end when he's looking at the rock or whatever. But it's fucking, dude, it's straight up like out of Interstellar something. It's so beautiful. And there's different, like, it goes from like, there's piano melodies, then there's like that like orchestral kind of choir combo thing, and then what did you think, Blaine, of the music?
Music was good. Wasn't no Godzilla -1 though.
Oh, dude, that shit's crazy, dude. That shit has the amazing soundtrack.
And that's the for me, that's a good soundtrack. Is at no point was it distracting from the film. At no point did I feel like, oh, what kind of music is that? Like every time there was music, it was complementing whatever emotion I was feeling on the screen or whatever. Like there's some curious music, there's some kind of miracle music, there's some magical stuff going on, and then there's, you know, a little more action scene. Like every time it complemented so well that the music almost disappears, where you're right there feeling it.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't distracting or anything like that. I love the Walla Walla themes when they were going up before they got eaten by the pelicans. It
was just the way they just like inflate, just like,
bro.
And even there with the pelicans,
we have a moment.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I'll let Blaine finish his thought.
Just even with the pelicans, we get this pelican that's like old and like dying.
Okay, that's
and
what I
he's
was
like,
going to bring up.
and he's like, "What do you want us to do? We have to eat, and these things are food. Like, what else are we supposed to?" Even the evil pelicans get a little bit of nuance.
And also, and that was I don't know how it sounded in the sub version that you guys listened to, but in the dub, that's Willem Dafoe.
Oh, interesting. It was a very deep Japanese voice.
And being, so I can only, you guys just imagine how Willem Dafoe would have delivered that, because it's only a small segment of the movie. It's like 2 minutes. But like they brought in one of, in my opinion, the most prolific actors of our generation to do a 2-minute segment as an evil but not actually evil pelican, to just sort of explain to him how this world, as magical as it is, isn't fair. We're just trying to survive.
That makes
Were
sense.
you upset that he didn't kill him?
Like,
no.
Okay. I feel like it would have been important for the kid to kill him, like in that scene, because he's like, "Kill me because I'm dying." Like that's sort of the way that's all set up. He's like, I'm going out. Don't let me suffer. Just kill me. And then he ends up dying by the time he's done talking with the kid. But I kind of wanted the kid to have that little bit of growth where it's like, it's okay for things to die. Like, I think that would have been a touching scene. But
I see what you're saying, but I see what you're saying. He still had that growth because it did die in front of him.
Yes.
I don't think a 9-year-old should be killing anything.
Well, I also think that it really would have
mercy killing. It's a mercy killing.
We already got the scene of him gutting the fish earlier. I think this would have just done kind of the same thing.
Oh, okay,
yeah, dude, what the fuck? This was
this kind of shocked me in the theater. I won't even lie. I didn't realize this was PG-13. I just thought, like most Miyazaki films, it was PG. And then I saw this, I was like, there's no way this is just a PG movie. I looked it up afterwards, I was like, oh, wow, this is PG-13.
So she stabs this thing and rips its guts out, dude.
Well, he rips the guts out. He's not supposed to. That's the best part.
They do it in a way that I've been watching before I went to saw this. I watched like how people making sushi a lot because it's very ASMR, like entertaining to watch.
Oh yeah.
Just videos of like chefs preparing sushi, and it's like it's kind of gross, but you kind of get used to it. But this was like on another level. It was like the guts were like. Coming out, it was like a guy pulling out like infinite things from a magic hat or something.
Oh, totally. When it starts just like spilling everywhere, it's great. I have I've fished all my life, so usually trout, but like sometimes salmon. And there's times where you get like a bloated or like on its way to being pregnant trout, and then when you cut it open, it literally guts spill out that are supposed to just stay there until you cut them out, and like all these weird inflated sacks and stuff. And it's the way that he's reacting and the way it looks to this kid is how it was for me as a child when I first cut into a bloated one. Like it's
nasty.
It is that gross.
It's making me ill.
I don't like fishing, man.
Still ate it.
I don't like. I might have been traumatized because I went to fish one time and the hook got caught in the eyeball of a fish, and it was just
that happened to me, bro.
Oh man!
Then you have to take it out, and
yeah, get it out. Got to catch another one.
Yeah. But no, look. So when we have this whole like the Walla Wallas are just amazing. Like, oh my god. But then the pelicans, yeah, they're eating them. Look at this.
And they're not eating like one or two. They're like just scarf them down like Pac-Man. Like and it makes this sort of like whop 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 noise when they're sucking up each one. It's really funny.
Yeah, and then this is an interesting part. He kind of got mad because she was killing when she intervened, that girl that came in. Stopped the pelicans from eating the Walla Wallas. Well, she was also killing the Walla Wallas.
Yeah, exactly. There's collateral damage on her big fire explosions.
And she didn't care. And it's like, well, this world has a totally different morality system, a little bit, almost. Slightly.
I mean, does she not care? Or are we looking at fire bombings in Tokyo where we come in and we hit targets that we think destroy things, but it also hits civilian infrastructure?
Look, that's a good point, but I never even had chance to think about that because he's the only one that gives a fuck about this. And then 5 seconds later, they're having a different conversation. So
they do move quickly.
And that's not really a problem. I think that's, if anything, it's like it benefits the second and third viewing of the movie. You know? It's like
potentially, yeah.
Sometimes it's not a problem if a movie requires multiple viewings because it's actually it's like an enriching thing with the world building. And it's like, well, it depends on the movie. Sometimes if it's poorly edited or if there's too little explanation, then it might be bad. But I don't think it was with this movie.
Well, and with something like this, if you watch it once, like you go in blind for your first one, then you go watch a review. You see, I'll show you the review later of the guy that read the book and sort of compares it to the movie.
Oh, I watched it. I watched it. Yeah.
You watched it? Okay, yeah. So you take the Asian guy? Yeah, the Asian guy. So you take some of this outside information and then you go watch it the next time, and now there's more things that sort of open up to you as you're enjoying it. Because the end of the film has all of these revelations that when you go back and see it again, there's new things that you can get from the scenes.
Yeah, dude. Here's the rock.
The rock looks so weird.
Here's the rock, guys.
I just love that it just floats too. You're like,
full on spoilers now because it's whatever. But
you're in the stone. There's the stone. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, dude. And this guy, it looks cool too. It looks like an asteroid. And these are the blocks, and he's dying. His fingers are falling apart. And then I don't know. This metaphor, this block building metaphor, is so abstract in the movie and weird. It's almost like it's almost stupid, but it's actually charming.
I think so the block building to me only makes sense in the idea of every time Miyazaki makes a film or a movie,
puts a new one on top, right?
He has to get people for storyboarding. He has to do same chunks that he's building the movie out of, all the same tasks, in order to create a different and new structure. That's why he has to rebuild it every day, but it has to be built differently each time. And that that made sense, like on a kind of a thinking back on it. But when you watch it and he's like, you've got to build it however you want it, but you got to do it differently each time. I was like, that's kind of weird, because the different worlds are different, but they're not like wildly different.
Yeah.
Well, that we know of. We only see 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he like his movies are all amazing in my opinion. Like they're all like none of them. If we say his movies are block structures, none of them are like toppling up. Like my least favorite one is Porco Rosso, and it's like an 8 out of 10. Like,
which is why the bird like really quickly putting it together is his kid making Earthsea. Like I can do it with all your stuff, and then it just fails. And you're like, dang it! He breaks it in half and he leaves.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Like, not everybody can do this, and the old man is just like it's not even narcissistic, because if Miyazaki wasn't aware of his genius, it would almost be like, now if he's being humble about it, like sure, but he knows he's a brilliant like world builder, and everybody loves his movies, and he's just kind of, I don't know, he's just being transparent about it.
And I kind of like almost no directors have a perfect record. Even Francis Ford Coppola made Jack, for example. That's an awful movie. Like, you know, even Coppola can fail. But then you've got Miyazaki, who's one of the one of the only people I can think of that genuinely has never ever made a bad film.
But maybe he thinks this movie might be his bad movie, and so that's why this is sort of toppling over almost. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what he thinks about this movie.
I think it's the last, because I think making this movie was that difficult that he's like, these structures are falling apart. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep, getting the storyboarding team to do this and getting the artists to do this. I can't keep doing this. Yeah, and I think it's him coming to grips with, this other person tries to build it and it fails, and that's okay. And no one wants to build, or I don't want anybody to build it the way I did it, because they're just going to do remake after remake and bastardize the thing. We don't want that. We don't want 20, 40 years from now when he's dead and gone for us to be doing live action Spirited Away. Like, don't do that. And I think that's sort of more the message too, is like, just let my stuff disappear.
When he retired after The Wind Rises, which was in 2013, mind you. So, I mean, his previous film was 10 years old now. It's 10 years prior to this. How many people left Ghibli to start that rival studio? Because they weren't going to do it without Miyazaki. There was no Ghibli without Miyazaki, really.
Yep.
Well, I think if he wanted to, I don't know, maybe he's just very picky, but like, I think people like Mamoru Hosoda, the guy who's doing like, everything he does is a masterpiece, in my opinion.
But Mamoru does Mamoru movies. If Mamoru tries to stack the Ghibli blocks, it's not going to be a Ghibli movie.
Exactly. So I actually compare his films to Ghibli all the time, because they are they're similar in that they're of this very fantastical Japanese nature that everyone
otherworldly kind of. Yeah, parallel worlds.
You're never gonna watch Weathering with You or The Garden of Words and assume it's a Ghibli film.
No, even Boy in the or Beast or whatever, and
someone on one of my streams the other day was talking about how Boy and the Beast was their favorite Ghibli movie. I'm like, I don't.
That's not.
I mean,
not Ghibli, but I didn't want to correct him and be a douche.
Yeah, no, the animation's totally different. There's this parallel world thing that kind of like, well, maybe if you're ignorant, you might think it's a Ghibli movie, but animation and that guy has his own style. His own characters are totally wacky and different, and but no, this is crazy, man. Like, there's so much, and then like, the boy takes basically a block at the end of the movie.
He just steals a block.
He steals this block. He steals it, but the guy probably knows he stole it,
well, and also, that's the guy's leaving his tutelage, leaving what he's done, and they're going to do their own thing, but they're going to keep this like one little bit of like, every day when Miyazaki came in, he would come and he would look at all of our tracings and he would judge the eyes. And that's what they took. Or they took some part of how he makes shows and they're going to bring it to their future projects, but they're not bringing all of his system along, right?
Man, like, isn't this like Tolkien like, dying and no one has ever since been able to replicate what he did? And
I almost said that earlier, in that because Tolkien's son acknowledges he could not do what his father did, but he tried to keep the spirit alive. Like, he didn't desecrate what his father did, whereas Tolkien's grandfather or grandchildren are, in my opinion, spitting on his grave. And that's sort of the takeaway that I got from, because when I said that he made this movie for his grandkids, I'm like, I really hope they don't do what Tolkien's grandkids did, which was dishonor and disrespect his legacy. Tolkien's son learned real quick, just like I assume Miyazaki's son learned after Earthsea. It's not everyone can do this just because you're part of that legacy. So this film actually had me genuinely worried for the future of Ghibli, purely because of what I've seen from the Tolkien estate.
Hey, if Ghibli, well, look what dude, Disney's dead. Disney movies are dead. There's no
same
Disney
thing.
Walt Disney is a time capsule. If anything that he touched is already, they have not been able to replicate that shit. Now, they sort of did in the 90s with like Beauty and the Beast, a little bit different, but like, it's been forever, and like, Disney's just a disaster right now. I don't know.
It's funny because a lot of people probably saw these movies because of Disney when they were younger, because Disney was the distributor for Ghibli in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. And I really do. I think it's in light of a lot of that, where it's like, hey, look, this guy made these great things, then he died, and people made bastardized versions of it. Just leave my stuff alone. Just nobody has to do it if you can't do it like me.
They'll always be there, guys. Well, I think they're all out on 4K now, or they're coming out and stuff. So you can just buy the physical you know. But look, you can't see it because there's stuff in the way. I was actually upset during this moment because I was like, damn, this is the last time we'll ever see this character and these little things. Do you know what scene I'm talking about? Do you see this in the background?
Yeah, I remember.
I was thinking, well, I guess we're done with this part of the, and it's kind of sad.
We saw that movie and we're not going to rewatch it anymore. We move on. We already watched Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, but I just meant like it's sad because like I wanted to explore this world more. But even it's weird because we were here for like a good hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how fucking crazy this movie is, dude. Like there's so much going on. That I wanted more of it. I do want more Nausicaa too. I wish that there was like a sequel or something or whatever, because that movie is not a sequel, but like that movie I just watched again.
Wasn't Nausicaa also based on a book series? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's more books than just the one movie.
It's based on a comic book or something.
I'm pretty sure it was something like that. Either way, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the same as experiencing if there was like a sequel to the film, but there is more story for anyone interested in Nausicaa.
Yeah, no, I just watched it again, and it's like I couldn't believe how. Oh my god, it's a masterpiece, man.
That movie's from like 79 or something.
84.
And it's, 84. It holds up beautifully.
It does
beautifully.
And then there's like anyway, so I sadly we're this went by very fast because we're all having a good time. Yeah, but there's more to talk about, but maybe I'll come on one of your streams or something if you guys still want to talk about it, more of it or something. But
yeah, if you've still got my link, you're always available. I'll shout about this movie or any other movie anytime.
Oh yeah. This was hilarious, dude. When they were gonna eat him.
Oh yes.
When they were gonna eat
freaking evil budgies.
Yeah, they're just gonna like fucking. This guy's a rolling pin. Like they're just gonna
bludgeon him. Yeah, just bludgeon.
Like, there's an axe. There's like a crowbar over here. These birds are demons. Look, like, do you know what I mean? They're scary.
But all this streams make me want to do is like when we're wrapped up, I'm gonna go out and get my bird, put it on my finger, and be like, "Hey, I love you, buddy. Like it's okay." Like
we didn't even talk about.
Makes me want to hang out with my bird.
We didn't even talk about this. This whole part was crazy.
Dude, we spent so little time on the magic arrow, the arrow with true aim. I mean, it's such a plot point that.
Yeah,
there's so much in this film. We're almost 2 hours in, and we have to wrap up. But we could keep going for probably another 3 or 4.
I would, but I have to.
I know you got other obligations. Yeah, you and Platoon are gonna argue about Barbie, and I'm gonna watch that while probably hopping over to Blaine's stream and chilling with him while we rate some waifus. But I just so you know, I'd be in your corner on Barbie. Just throwing that out there.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I still think it's like 6, 7 out of 10. It's not my favorite movie, but. Yeah,
no, I just got so tired of the people on our side of the internet that were like, "Oh, it's the wokest movie ever." It's like, dude, Barbie is actually purely from a film, a set design standpoint, probably one of the best movies of the year. Like the set design of the movie is
that's true,
insane.
So Zach's channel, I'm debating Platoon. I'm really debating. It's going to be a conversation about Barbie and Oppenheimer as well.
Nice.
I love Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is my favorite movie of the year. I watched it twice. Watched it again last week, and it just blows my mind.
You guys prefer Oppenheimer instead of the sequel?
Godzilla minus
those
one.
Are my
Godzilla
top
minus
2
one.
films for the year, but yeah, Oppenheimer
minus one
is and Godzilla.
Yeah, it's in my top 10 so far. Godzilla minus one. I have some issues with the story, but
my top 5 films for this year is Godzilla minus one, Boy of the Heron, and then 3 empty slots.
Yeah, dude. Just watch. If you like, you don't like horror movies. Never mind. Sorry.
I'll probably enjoy it, but now is the time for crappy Hallmark Christmas movies that I do drinking games with friends.
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, man, I just love.
You.
Oh yeah, no, Oppenheimer. No, I can't remember. It was just nonsense. I was gonna say something nonsensical. Godzilla. There was one part of that movie in particular that I cringed, and I still think should have been. I don't know what the fuck they were doing with the girl and the guy, and maybe you know what I'm talking about. And there's this part where I'm gonna spoil Godzilla guys right now for you guys, but there's this part where they're gonna die, and she just pushes him into an alley, and then she dies. We think she dies.
She blasts away.
Instead of number one, he should have been a fucking man and like pulled her in or done the opposite, and then all they had to do was just walk to the right like a foot, and they're fine. But they contrived this stupid moment where it's like you're supposed to be like pretend that you think she's dead, even though it's obvious that like to me at least I thought it was obvious that he was going to eventually potentially find her later. I thought that was.
I hoped she would stay dead. I really did. I think that would have been a better story overall. But I think they were like, I get what they're going for. Like, he needs just another instance
motivation
of somebody else is helping him not die yet, and to get that. But you're right. The way they frame it and everything is like,
bad.
Why? This doesn't make sense. It's like the floating table at the end of Titanic. You're like, why not both?
But anyway, that was just a little nitpick, and I also not a huge fan of some of the overacting. But other than that, I mean, it's a Godzilla movie, whatever. It's a great fucking movie, though. The music's fucking good. Somebody mentioned it in the stream earlier.
Yeah, I love the music. The fact that it's like the original soundtrack done better, I just love that.
Oh my god! And then the opening scene was something. I don't think I've seen a more intense opening scine. Oh, dude, maybe ever. Honestly, it was fucking awesome.
It was amazing.
It reminded me of the best parts of Jurassic Park. Honestly,
there's one scene in that opening scene where Godzilla's ambiguously sized. But other than that, where like his foot comes down and you're like, wait a minute, how tall is he right now? I don't quite get it. But other than that one, exactly. It was a beautiful shots.
I think it was the sound effects, that really made me enjoy that opening, and like the perspective. Yeah, there was like one awkward perspective thing, but everything else was good. I could talk about that forever. We're gonna bounce chat. By the way, I might be doing a Christmas stream where I play Monster Hunter World, because there's this hashtag going around called Return to World. It has like 100,000 players right now because the new trailer came out for the new game, and it's pretty freaking crazy, dude. Like a 5-year-old game now has like 90,000 concurrent players. So I might be doing a little fun stream for Christmas. What are you guys doing for Christmas?
For Christmas, I am eating food and watching bad Hallmark movies where I drink. But I'll be streaming all this week, 7 o'clock, so right after this ends, and then every day from now. I do Waifu Wednesday today. Tomorrow will be more reviews, and then Fun Time Friday, where everybody's invited to come chat about whatever their favorite escapism is from the week.
Nice.
As for, on Christmas, I might at some point late into the night, so technically it might not even be Christmas anymore because it'll be late. But I'll probably be on Stu Pinzo's stream. He's doing a massive Godzilla stream, and as one of the world's biggest Godzilla fans, he invited me on. I definitely, just depending on how Christmas goes, might take him up. But other than that, I'm going to be probably spending the day doing homemade ramen. I love doing homemade ramen, but it's like an 8-hour process minimum, so I'm gonna have to start early. But I'm thinking that's what we're doing for Christmas dinner is homemade ramen. So I'm gonna have to buckle down and really put in the work to do that. But other than that, family hanging out, gifts, dinner,
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Good gifts and dinner. That's pretty much all I care about. But yeah, so other than that, guys, go sub to these guys. Their channels are in the description of the video if you guys want to like plug it in the comments. But yeah, other than that, I guess happy holidays / New Year, whatever you want to. There's a couple things. I might even do are you guys doing a New Year's Eve stream? Do you do that or no?
This is my first year on YouTube, so doing a New Year's Eve stream is definitely something I'm considering. I want to find I'll go ahead and talk about this now because I've asked you about it. I'm doing a 1-year anniversary / 2,000 subscribers celebration stream on January 8th, where you are actually one of the guests, Lofti. You, Lil Platoon, Vex Electronica, Zax, and a few others are going to come on and celebrate my first year on YouTube with me. So look forward to that on January 8th. But might be doing a New Year's stream. I'm trying to decide what to do to make it worth it.
Too busy drinking. Yeah. It's also Sunday. I don't stream on weekends usually.
Oh. Well,
I'm a Monday through Friday kind of streamer.
I'm a monkey. I'm a monk. Oh, that's a. I'm tired of these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane. Snakes on a Plane. Samuel Jackson was dubbed for the TV version.
Yeah, it's so great.
Oh, wonderful.
Team 4 Star, stole that when they did their Dragon Ball Bridge. When Trunks says, "I'm tired of these monkey fighting androids on this Monday to Friday timeline."
Embarrassing. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining. I wish we could have talked longer, but we'll hang out again sometime. Maybe you can join my Ghibli stream when I do like a retro. I want to do a tier list and everything.
Ooh, nice. I love tier lists.
Yeah, maybe when this hits streaming or something, when other people are starting to watch it, we'll do something else. But
there you go.
You know where to find me, all over Twitter and shit talking on YouTube. So hit me up anytime. Good.
Awesome, guys. That was a great conversation, and we all like the movie. Right at the very end here, give it. I want you guys to give it a rating, unless you don't like doing that stuff. I am gonna come out and say this movie is like a 9 out of 10 for me.
I was gonna say the same. For me, this movie's a 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
this is probably the third best Miyazaki behind Mononoke.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah,
I'd probably put Mononoke and Ponyo above it. This one's number 3.
She won Lofty's heart. Ponyo is his favorite Ghibli film.
No. I'm surprised because I love Ponyo, but I don't really know too many people who have that in their top.
Oh, really? No, I love that sappy love story. It gets me every time.
Well, the better way of doing this is where you rank it in the Miyazaki canon. So you say your top 3.
Yeah, it's in.
Okay,
it's either 4. Oh, sorry, go on, Lofty.
Well, I said this in my review. If you guys watch, it's on my channel. But it's number 5 for me. It's right behind. Number 1 is Mononoke. Number 2 is Spirited Away. Number 3 is Nausicaa, and then A Castle in the Sky. And then this is 5. I like his adventure stories more than some of the other stuff. That's why my top 4 is kind of like very similar, but
makes sense.
Right. Well, I mean, I can't decide if this is 4 or 5 for me. I love this and Nausicaa. Like, I don't know which one I prefer, but those are my 4 and 5 spots. It's Kiki's Delivery Service, The Wind Rises, Porco Rosso, which is a very unorthodox pick for some people.
It's a fun one.
I love Porco Rosso, and then this and Nausicaa. I truly cannot decide what would be 4 and what would be 5. I love both.
Watch Nausicaa again, because I hadn't seen it in like 5 years, and I forgot, dude, how brilliant the pacing of that movie is.
Yeah, I'll do a rewatch. If you're gonna be doing a Ghibli ranking stream, I'm just gonna go hard and I'll rewatch all the Ghibli films just to get prepped.
Just be accurate with your studies.
As accurate as possible.
The only Ghibli film that, like, to me, his worst work is the Cat Returns, and even that's still a great movie. I still love the Cat Returns. It's just my least favorite by him.
That's because he wrote it and he didn't direct it.
Fair enough.
You have an opposite list of me, which is funny, but that's because, like I said, like, his worst movie, in my opinion, is still like an 8 out of 10.
Right.
Like Porco Rosso just doesn't hit me personally. Like, maybe I should watch it again though. But yeah.
If you watched Porco Rosso when it came to America, I think you need to watch it as an adult. Like, be an adult seeing Porco Rosso. You're like, oh man. Right. I get it. I didn't see it
until I was already an adult, so maybe that's why I like it.
It's definitely better themed for adults.
Well, that's fair. I like I said, I prefer his world building over his.
Oh, you still will probably not like it as much as the rest of them, but you'll have this entirely new perspective that you'll be like,
"Oh, I'm sure."
Damn.
I'm sure. All right, that pretty much wraps it up, guys. I hope you guys enjoy it and go watch it. Support in theaters. It's still in theaters.
Yep. Should be.
Oh, dude, IMAX was crazy. I've never seen a movie like that in IMAX before, and it was pretty amazing.
Oh, nice.
So I can't wait to watch the dub version, dude. I can't wait to watch
it. Yeah, you're going to love it. The dub version was great.
Yeah, me and Blaine need to do that.
Yep.
All right, guys. see ya next time, and maybe I think Christmas Eve is what I was talking about for my stream. So look out for that.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you. Bye, chat. Bye, everybody.
Kampai.